to take this opportunity to say welcome and thank you for coming to the Q&A session this evening for the KTD Dharma Paths class on the preliminaries, the Mahamudra preliminaries, or Nundro. There have been several classes already, and we've covered the basics of the 4 ordinary foundations, as well as the first of the extraordinary foundations, the refuge and bodhicitta practice. So I'm Kathy Wesley. I'll be your host tonight, and I will take I'll take your questions and then work with our other Lama participant, Lama Losang, to see if we can get answers. So right now, some of our KTD lamas are away, so I'm not sure how many lamas we'll see this evening, but we will do our best to answer all of your questions. So we'll start with the Bodhisattva motivation, and we'll open it for questions. You have 2 ways to participate. You can raise your hand or use the raise hand function on your keyboard. On your dashboard, or you can type it into chat. So I'm going to open up my chat here so that my chat window so I can watch. There will be simultaneous translation in Mandarin. Okay. Let's see if we have any curiosities. If anybody heard something they were wondering about, or have questions about any aspect of the teaching thus far, or anything about Nundro in general, you can ask now. If not, we will start asking you questions. That's a joke. I suspect this is going to be a short meeting. Does anybody like to report in about their Nundro practice? How's it going? You facing any challenges? Here we go. Richard, you can ask your question.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to type, but it's never quick enough, it seems like.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
You guys are waiting, and so I'm trying to type, but yeah, it'd be better to just ask straight out. And frankly, I didn't really have a question that came to mind when I entered, but now that I'm thinking about it, with regard to the refuge tree, as I go through and I'm doing my prostrations, I'm focusing on the visualization, and I can't help it at this point in my practice that the Yidam deities and the Dharma protectors seem somewhat a little more foreign to me than, say, the Buddhas and the refuge masters and the Bodhisattvas. So I'm wondering how better to connect with those deities, and maybe you can explain a little more in detail about both of them so that, I don't know, it just gives me a little more inspiration, I guess.
I hear what you're saying. This actually is not an uncommon question. In other words, it's a common question. So, hey, Lama Losang, would you like to start us off tonight on answering this question?
Well, as you say, it's not an uncommon question, and you probably don't have familiarity with the Yidams and the other deities on our refuge tree, even the whole entourage that is on there. So, you know, where does can we identify those the characters in that tree? And then, you know, you may have to actually do a little research to explore. You know, we were just talking about our lineage teachers and the 10-day retreat, and we're having an ongoing, I don't know if anyone's attended the 10-day retreat, but I'm making a little segue here as to some of our lineage teachers who you may not have familiarity with, but also the Yidams. And, you know, it would have to require, I think, research to some degree, because, you know, you don't have empowerment, you haven't been taught these different Yidam practices. So it is a very good question, and it's a really hard to answer, other than doing some investigative work to identify, these yidams and the bodhisattvas and the whole series of lineage protectors in our Karmakaju. You'll see different lineage trees with different lineages, obviously. So it does take some getting used to. And I'll open with that. Lama, you may have some more specific things to say.
No, I really appreciate that, Lama Losang, because I kind of agree with what you're saying, because Richard, you really hit on something, which is that you may or may not have ever experienced this, but maybe somebody in your home has a family album that's really old. And you're going to see pictures of your great uncles and great aunts and your grandparents, and you're going to say, who are those people? And do they matter? And they're all part of our family, but I don't know them. So that's how I started in trying to understand myself. I tried to use that image or that idea to help me relate to the fact that all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are relevant to me in that they all have enlightenment, have attained enlightenment. And so it's not just that they're enlightened and they want to help me, you know? So it's kind of like I start there. And there's a wonderful prayer that I had to teach on, and a couple of the lines really stuck with me. And one of the couplets, it goes in English, something like, the Dharmachakra through compassion manifests as the two kayas of form. And what this means is that enlightenment is like a diamond, and all of the different representations and manifestations of that enlightened mind are the facets on that diamond, if you will. They're but through compassion, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas appear in various forms to benefit beings. So that's the second thing you can think about. First, they're like the family members in your album who you don't know or haven't met.
Your genealogy.
They're benevolent. Yes, Lama Losang?
It's your genealogy. People are into genealogy. So
Yeah,
you have to look those
it's your family, it's your roots, because for example, I read somewhere that Mahakala, the two-armed Mahakala, was a family protector for the second Karmapa, Karmapakshi. And that somehow this is my imagination, sort of like, thinking that's how he got the job to be our main protector. But it's that's probably a little too frivolous to say. But the idea is that these beings have different functions, and this is the third way to think of them. They're all enlightened. They all want to help us. They're all part of our genealogy, our spiritual lineage. But the other part of it is that they have different functions. Yi Dam, the word in Tibetan, Yi is like mind and Dam is like bond. So they are a bond of the mind. In other words, they used to translate this in the old days as meditational deities, deities upon whom we meditate. There are different groups related to the five Buddha families, but that's a whole nother class. But that have to do with different types of mental afflictions that they help us overcome. So we can look at yidams as beings that we meditate on for form, so that we can set aside our confused ideas of who we think we are, and then take on the enlightened aspect of a Buddha or Bodhisattva. And then the protectors, their main function is to see the yidams are called the root of all accomplishment in the three roots, the lamas, the yidams, and the protectors. And because we know that the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, but then there's also the lamas, the yidams, and the protectors. And as Lama Losang was saying, that these are part of our particular tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, the Kagyu tradition. These our particular yidams and our particular protectors. But the function of the protectors is to help protect us from our own worst impulses and instincts. So Pema Chodron in her book, I think it was in Start Where You Are, she talked to Trungpa Rinpoche about it. And he said, when you pray to the protectors, you're asking them to tame your own mental afflictions. And so Pema Chodron says, they are our strength, the strength behind our saying no to negative action. So I don't know if that helps you at all, Richard. Lama Losang, do you have something to add?
No, I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
I can add one quick thing, Lama Kathy,
Sure.
and that is that to identify the individual characters in the tree, because I'm going to put characters because since it's a wide group, there's two sources: the Nundro book that we have at KTD, and also Rinpoche's commentary on the Nundro practice.
Yes, that's a good.
There it is.
Yeah. So it has the identification of all of those. It's the refuge tree with all those little things, all the places where they are. Their names are there, so you can identify them. There's the tree, and so each is identified.
Yeah. The other thing that will help is as what Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche told me to do. He said, look, he said, this visualization is like too big. It's too much. It's a lot. And he said, so it's probably going to be pretty much impossible for us as beginners to see it all. But what he said to me about it was really interesting. He said, even if you can't see them all in detail, he said, know that they are there in front of you. Have the feeling of being in the presence of all of those awakened beings, and that they are there, and you're asking them specifically to help you in your practice. You're asking them to help you purify your negativities, to accumulate merit, to eliminate bad habits. He said, you can aim your practice, he said, at whatever is bothering you. Maybe you've got a problem at home, maybe you've got a problem at work. But you can by doing the refuge prayers and feeling that you're in the presence of the enlightened beings, ask them to help you with what's going on in your life. So anyhow, I thought I would mention that, and this is really kind of amazing. I believe that a copy of this is on the class page now. So
one thing that really helped me when I was doing that early was just recognizing the 6 major areas in the tree.
That's a good idea too.
It was overwhelming to look at the massive number of beings, but when I just looked at it as, okay, the main section of the tree is the lamas. Underneath that, there's a group that's the yidams. To the left, as we're looking at it, it's described as right in the text, is the Buddhas. Behind that is the Dharma, which you can just barely see. And on the right side, as we're facing it, is the Sangha. And then underneath is the protectors. And just looking at that as the 6 areas really helped me.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know if you can see my little cursor, but I'm circling the 6 areas with the
I
cursor.
see it. Thank you all so much for that explanation. I have done some research and I do have the resources and I appreciate that, but it's always good to ask because I learned so much just from the conversation and from what you
Oh,
said.
yeah.
So thank you.
Oh yeah, no, I love the question, and there's a lot of wisdom in the room here tonight because we've got quite a few people, and I bet a few of them have also grappled with this. So we'll see how the questions go, but we may circle back to this. Okay, let me take one from chat before I get to you, Nat. Hang on, okay? Chelsea is saying, when trying to cultivate bodhicitta in our daily lives, how do you recommend integrating that in situations that are more challenging? As an example, I'm finding that I am able to be aware and present and to be kind until I get to work. And then struggle to remember to be present and kind because I am so focused on execution of goals. Oh, Yeah, okay, I feel you. I feel you. That's a true one. That's a true one. Lama Losang, I'm going to turn to you again to kick us off here.
Well, we always start with the having the right view, and I think you have the right view. It's essential that we begin with that, and without the right view, we can become confused. And so these teachings are called, the Dharma, and they serve as the map. And so, our teachers serve as kind guides on our journey, and we need guides who can show us the path clearly. To prevent us from taking wrong turns and dead ends. So we're fortunate, to have these teachings available. So one of the things, what I was teaching, is the four thoughts that turn the mind. And so if we are using that, and I know you were on that, and we talked about ways to cultivate, these. We call these the preliminaries. And the preliminaries because we have to have the structure. We're building a house. We have to start. We don't start with a roof. We have to start with the foundations. So the teachings of the Buddha will definitely lead to a happier, richer, more full life. So how do we do that? We start with the preliminaries. And these preliminaries are the basis upon which we can build our practice. So I'm just going to go back to the teachings that I did and that you heard and remind you about contemplations on the four thoughts that turn the mind. So this is essential. And we do, you get to work and your kleshas arise, you're one-pointed in what you want to do. People are bothering you. Get out of my way. I don't want to deal with this. All the different things that come up. But just as a reminder, the four thoughts that turn the mind, these contemplations are rooted in the early teachings of Buddhism and are systematized, and especially, you heard about it in the previous teachings that we did. They came up, and I can't think of the name of what we already taught, but it is certainly part of the Nundro practices. It's the end of the day here. We've been practicing. I'm at KTT, and my mind is a little scrambled. But just to remember, and the exercises that we talked about, this precious human life, that is the first thing. We want to use this in the best possible way, recognizing that the rarity and value of being born as a human with all of the freedoms and opportunities are priceless, and it's necessary for our spiritual development. So we reflect on that when you're starting to get into that irritation mode. Contemplate this precious human birth and how we're going to use it, and we don't want to waste it by particularly with our frustrations and those kinds of things that can take us out of the moment. So breathe, be present, and we start with that one, having that kind of relationship with starting with that. And all of the benefits, we talked about the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments that we have being born human. So, but we let go of our grasp. If somebody's upset you because they're interfering and you're grasping at something that you need to do, and they're interfering with that. So we have to relax. The first thing we talked about was renunciation. So all these things that are pushing and pulling you, we have to look at that deeply. And there's a certain amount of abandonment to those kinds of pushing and pulling. And relinquishing, the mental attachment, and so that is our path to freedom. And so we have that, and we talked about the fortunate human birth. I'm just reviewing this for you again, and I think you probably recall it. So we have this gift, and we want to make sure that we use it properly. The second one is that, we don't have that much time. impermanence and death. You don't have to look far to see the reality of that one, and reflecting on the transient nature of life. So being frustrated, irritated, and lacking, the compassion and loving kindness, that is essential to cultivate, because this life is short. So we have that, and then those thoughts, even the thoughts, lead to our actions. So when that feeling of frustration, irritability arises, we are immediately aware of that, or as quickly as we can, so that it doesn't degenerate into something that will cause us and our workmates suffering, which is karma. This is cause and effect, understanding that our actions, physical, verbal, mental, do have consequences that shape our experience, and our future lives, as well as our present life. So we want to recognize that, and I'm asking you to contemplate that when you get in that mode. And the defects of samsara. We've wandered in samsara since beginningless time. This is, so we contemplate the pervasiveness of unsatisfactoriness. So this situation, you may be fine in your meditation. You walk in the door of the office, and things are not the way you want them to be. There's a dissatisfaction and suffering of inherent cyclic existence. We know that. That's called samsara, and there's no way out. If we're in this situation, samsaric existence. So we contemplate, that unsatisfactory nature of samsara and the perpetual cycle of birth, old age, sickness, and death, all those things. So this reflection is necessary, to recognize the inherent suffering that and dissatisfactions that's present in our worldly existence, and is shown in graphic detail for all of us every day, and in our worldly activities. So, I mean, that was a roundabout way, but as a vehicle, how do you do it? Consider, again, contemplation of these four thoughts that turn the mind.
All right. Thanks very much, Lama Losang. And the only thing that I'll add to that is that thinking about, I really love the idea of stopping and taking a breath when something's got us back on our heels, so to speak. If somebody confronts us with something, the first thing to do is take a breath. And sometimes that'll give us enough time to kick in the idea of their suffering too, because I think they're not necessarily being difficult because of anything that we might know, because we can't read minds, but they're suffering in some way. And if we could see their suffering as well as to why they are doing that, then maybe we'll be able to see into what it is that's concerning them. Because sometimes I remember a buddy of mine from the old management team at Columbus KTC said, sometimes you've got to look at the question behind the question, like, what are they afraid of? What is their internal story? Are they afraid of losing something, and and so forth, and see if there's a way to address that. So, but yes, yeah, what you might do is also do meditation and prayer for them when you're not with them. Because sometimes that will give us another way of looking at it, because they're obviously not having a good time, and they don't have tools. They are just without tools.
So
they don't have.
that's the Lojong practice. That's what I was trying to think of. We engaged
Hey,
these.
that's right. That was the previous.
That was so
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. So Chelsea, I hope that's helpful, and and
Thank you. Yes.
and you can. Oh, the other thing is, I remember something Kemper Rinpoche said. He said, "Look, if you're having problems with somebody," he said, "and you're doing the refuge and bodhicitta," he said, "put them in the front row as you're doing your bow, and you're leading them and taking refuge too." Oy.
Look at gifts for you to practice patience and loving kindness. So they were sent specifically for you.
Oh my. Oh.
And Chelsea, one thing, if you didn't attend the previous series of teachings on Lojong, that playlist is available on our YouTube channel.
Thank
For
you.
free. Yeah.
Hi, Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay. Give Coconut a scratch for me there, will you? All right. So thank you. Hey, Nat, you're up next. And I see two more questions. So we're going to have some lively conversation here. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you all, the teachers and students, for the teachings and for being there, because this is very helpful and very important. Now, I will get to my question so I don't hold everybody up. The I am practicing Ngundro, and I've gotten through. I'm into the Guru Yoga, so I'm doing daily practice, like obviously the 4 extraordinary preliminary practices. But my question is, let's say in the morning I do the full practice, and then I decided in the afternoon that I can do some more practicing. Or evening, I can do more practice. Do I do the all 4 again, or can I just jump into the Guru Yoga?
I actually have an answer for that. Based on
I knew you would.
Yeah. Based on Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's instructions to us, he said that on subsequent practices in a day, you can just start from the Guru Yoga. So if you're going to do 2, yeah.
I was going to say thank you. I was hoping you would say that.
Oh, but if you have time, of course, the more the merrier. Of course, that's
My teacher says
by
you
the
do
way,
the whole practice.
He said do the whole
take
practice. Okay.
Yeah, so I would ask your teacher for confirmation, because the different
good
teachers
point.
may have different answers.
My main teacher was Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, and I can ask him, but I don't know that he'll give. I think he just answered me through Kathy.
He is continuing. Nat, as you know, he's continuing to teach all of us all the time, and everything that we remember that he said, right? And he's our Vajradhara, so he's in the center of our tree, in the center of our heart.
Yeah. I don't want to bypass here, but I will say I just recently, within the past 2 months, listened. I have a set of cassette tapes, believe it or not, from 1981 of his on the Ngundro practices, and I listened to all of it again. In fact, I actually converted it to digital, so I can.
Oh, wonderful.
Anyway, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks a lot. Okay, back to the chat. And let's see. Marianne says, her question is it all right to display the refuge tree in a more or less public place in my home, where I have business clients who will see it? I'd like to be able to see it more often during my meditation off the cushion throughout the day. Well, I remember I met a Lama that maybe some of you will know by reputation, and that's Akhong Rinpoche. And he actually said it's okay to have images of the Buddha in your place of business. Now, he didn't say refuge tree, but he did say images of the Buddha or religious figures. He said it's actually kind of good for people in the public sphere to be able to see the images. But let's see what others have to say. Lama Losang.
Yeah, I don't think many people who don't have the orientation that you do are going to recognize what that is, really. It could be a nice piece of art, and if you have it, in a place that usually we keep these things private for the most part. But it is good to surround yourself. You probably spend more time at work than you do in your shrine room. So having it available to you, even to do practice, to close the door and use it as a tool, for you. You say you like to see it. Well, the seeing is part of the practice, and you make a connection with it as well. So from my point of view, I think you have to be discreet, with it. But what we usually don't do is have the protector deities shown in a public place. Usually they're covered, but they do form part of the refuge tree at the bottom there. But I would say that most people, you'd have to get up close and personal with that view to really look at that and see what's going on. So if it does serve you and works towards your progress on the path, it'd probably be more beneficial than not.
Marianne?
Yeah. I just want to ask one more thing, sort of related, because of what Lama Losang just said about it. Usually a shrine, you have a shrine room or a very private place where all those things are. And I have a small home, and my home has been kind of always the entire place a very sacred space. So that's how I live. And so I even have I have my shrine out in a public place. So I don't really have any place else to put it. That's the thing.
Well, it could just be a corner of your bedroom. It could be in a more private place for you. So you're creating, a space for your practice. And so do you have a place where you actually sit and practice?
Yes, and it's where the shrine is. It's in the same room.
Yeah. So
the thing is, I was thinking about moving it to my bedroom, but I didn't know if that would be
put a little screen around it, just I would say in terms of feng shui and creating a healing, a kind of a place for it, if it's all spread out and it's not really a place where you actually sit in front of and do your practice there, that is not the best use.
Yeah. See, I would not be able to practice in my bedroom. It's too small. Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate that part of the question as well. I appreciate that part of the question as well, because you're right. Sometimes we have more public areas because of a small place, right? So Kempo Rinpoche said you have to do your best to practice in a place where you feel comfortable. And he recommended against having it in high traffic areas of the home, like the high hallway, for example.
Yes.
That's probably not your best bet for being undisturbed. So, but if you have a small place, then you got to do what you got to do.
But just
okay.
Screen around it, if you have enough room for that, for your cushion or your chair and the shrine, and it can be somewhat protected. But you know your space better than I do, and
Right.
How that is. So,
well, I'm thinking you're giving me an idea now, is that I could even just put up a removable sort of screen in that area that would sort of put a border of that part of the room so that when people come in, they don't see it directly. Although people have never said anything, on occasion they'll say it looks beautiful, something like that. But, I always say to people, if you have any questions about anything you see in my home, you're welcome to ask me like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. That helps.
Okay, thanks. Okay, now let's see. That was a question off of the chat. Now, hey, Barb, Barb Stout, did you have a question? I saw your hand up, but did we answer your question? Okay, just checking. Okay, nobody else has their hand up on pictures, but yeah, Chris, are you sharing what you shared in the chat here? Oh yeah, hang on just a second. You're not unmuted.
Hi, Lama Kathy. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks very much.
Thank you for helping me over the years and going out of your way to make sure I got teachings from Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, our perfect teacher.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little defeated because I did a third of my prostrations physically, and then I did the last 2/3 of them verbally because I have neck and back problems from photography stuff. And I'm wondering if you can't do them physically and you want to complete the Nundro, do you need to do 4 times as many or something twice as many or something verbally?
Again, Lama Losang, do you have an answer for this from Kemper Boucher? Because I got one.
Yeah, no, we're doing this with our mind. You know, this is a practice. Yes, we do this to generate the devotion and generate the faith in our teachers and all those things. So, but if you can't do it, you're certainly not going to generate that. But if you can do it, you know, with the right mindset, and you put your energy and focus on what you're saying, that can serve you well, rather than stopping. You know, I mean, if that's the choice, stopping or doing it verbally like that, definitely do it verbally.
Yeah. And Kemper Rinpoche said to me, he said, "Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine to do the count the recitations rather than counting the physical prostrations." See, because and what Yunten had to say is also very true. You consider Kempo Karthar Rinpoche to be your teacher, and so any advice that he would give would probably be helpful to you. You know, whereas other teachers' advice may or may not be helpful to you, but his advice in some way will be helpful. So he said that for people who have actual physical problems, he said they need to be able to switch over to counting recitations. What he said to me was, he said, look, it started out as 100,000 recitations of the refuge formula, 100,000, 111,111, recitations of the refuge formula. He said, but of course, in Tibet, everything goes better with prostrations. He said so that people were doing prostrations with him, and then the prostrations sort of took over and it became an athletic competition. So, so I think that you don't need to worry, because he said you don't have to do twice as much or 4 times as much or 6 times as much. He said you just have to complete the number. So hopefully that's helpful for you. So yeah, don't put yourself through mental gyrations in order to do your practice. You can ask any of us anytime, and we'll be there with answers for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Continue in the way that you mentioned. You know, do it with the verbalizing the refuge like that.
Kemper Boucher said you can also visualize yourself doing prostrations. He said that might actually even be harder.
Yeah, visualize the prostrations.
When I was injured, briefly, I was doing just kind of leaning at the table as if I was doing a prostration, but doing a little bit of physical without going the whole way, which I couldn't do at the time.
Oh yeah, thank you. That's great. Okay, well, let's see. Jumping over to chat, Larson says, I'm a little late to the game here, having only just found out about this class, so I've missed the previous lessons. I'd like to know about the differences between the preliminaries that Jamgon Kongtrul discusses in The Great Path of Awakening and Nundro. How do these overlap, and how are they distinct from one another? Are there different circumstances in which we would engage in one or the other of these? Having taught the Lojong class and the book, I know exactly what you're talking about, Larson. And the answer is every major system has its own preliminaries. So for example, all of the major Yidam practices have a preliminary. All of the major yogic practices have a preliminary. And so Lojong, being its own system, has a preliminary. So the preliminary for Lojong and the preliminary for Mahamudra, which we call Nundro, we call that preliminary Nundro, are distinct and different from each other. The Lojong preliminary is to be done before every session of practice. And that's the Lojong Guru Yoga, which is explained in the first slogan, first do the groundwork, or first perform the preliminaries. And there are 2 preliminaries in the Lojong Nundro, and they are to be done each, you don't count them. You do them every single time you do a session of Lojong practice. So that'll be the Lojong Guru Yoga plus the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward Dharma, which Lama Losang was explaining a little earlier. So you can do the Lojong Guru Yoga as well as the reflection on the 4 thoughts. And then you can do your Lojong practice, whether you're doing Tonglen is your Lojong practice, or the ultimate, that's the relative bodhicitta practice, or the ultimate bodhicitta practice. Now, Lama Losang, I think could you help Larson a little bit about what the practices of the Mahamudra Nundro are?
Yeah, I think he knows that actually, but he's from
Okay.
Gainesville. Hi, Larson.
Hey.
So it is.
See you.
We start with the prostrations, as you know, and then we do the purification practice of Vajrasattva, and then we do the mandala practice for generating merit, and then we do Guru Yoga. But that is a separate practice in the Mahamudra tradition, but you'd be fine in continuing to do the Lojong practice as your practice. And it is different, but it leads to the same result. You know, they do include similar things, but it's a slightly different practice, as you're indicating. I hope that answers your question, and if you need more, let me know.
No, that definitely answers my question and has illuminated both of these practices a little more for me. So thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well done. Okay, well now we're at the place where we have, let's see, no questions, but let's see. Other things people might be curious about. How's your practice going? Have you hit any snags that you're willing to talk about?
Although this is about Nundro, if you have other questions, you know, that you're unclear about or would like some clarification on, it's fertile ground. You can ask it.
We
Okay.
just got another question in the chat.
Oh yeah, I see. Thanks very much. Hang on a moment. I have to clear my throat. Okay, Dana from Sacramento. Hey, so I haven't started Nundro yet. I'm practicing prostrations to prepare my body. Oh yeah. And now I am thinking that studying the visualizations and beings would be helpful. Are there other aspects of the practice that might help me prepare? Does someone have the link to the Nundro book at the bookstore? Oh yeah, I think we can help you out. Yunten, will you be able to help Dana out with the link to the Khenpo Rinpoche's commentary? And yeah,
I'm just working on pulling those up.
you're the best. Okay, fantastic. Lama Losang, would you like to start?
I'm sorry.
Oh, help, something to ask, ways. Dana is working to prepare for doing the Nundro practice by doing physical prostrations to kind of get, I think what she's talking about is getting in shape. And but I'm thinking
Jump
that
right
there
in.
might be some other things she can do to prepare.
Yeah, and so the main thing, and Lama, you mentioned that, is that when you're looking at that refuge tree, you know, and as Rinpoche also said, you're not going to be able to really do that in its entirety, but understand that they are present there and working with you. So that is the key thing. It's within a Yidam practice at all. If you're doing a Yidam practice, if you have, people always say they have trouble with visualization, but you know, we really don't. We're just not practiced. And I use the example of a pizza. If you think of your favorite pizza and all the toppings, you can probably think of that pretty clearly, what the crust looks like, what's on it, and everything else. But we don't have the same familiarity with the deities, or certainly with the complexity of the refuge tree. So don't be too bogged down in, but we were talking about become familiar, but that can be over a period of time. You don't wait to do the practice until you understand who every person is there, any more that you're going to understand. We talked about genealogy and who are those people in the picture, and your lineage, line over time, line over the ages, lineage, that's what that means. So it's good to start. And hopefully you're in contact with someone who can help you along the way as well, and are participating in the rest of this Nundro the teaching as well. We've just basically touched the surface, and there's more to come. So don't stop being with your study. That's important. You hear it, you contemplate it, and you practice. So that is essential. But you don't have to be expert at prostrations before you begin.
That's great. Thank you, Lama. Something else that was helpful, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche told me that before I started doing the Mahamudra Nundro practice, he said, you can read the opening introduction and maybe the first chapter of the Torch of Certainty, also known as the Torch of True Meaning. And then the other thing was, he said, start working on your bodhicitta practice. He said, so what I do is I tell people, add Tonglen to your Tonglen practice to your everyday practice of shamatha. If you're doing even a short shamatha practice, it's really great to do a little bit of Tonglen. And my favorite instruction on how to do Tonglen is in Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's book, Dharma Paths, Paths, Dharma Paths. It's the only reference I know in the whole book, so don't be impressed. It's page 118 to 119. And he gives an incredibly simplified method of doing Tonglen. And he says, just do this for a short time every day. You don't try to do Tonglen for half an hour. You just try to do it for a few minutes so that you have this you're working on a genuine feeling of compassion. And he said, and that will actually help your Nundro practice go better.
That's really good advice.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dana. I hope that was helpful for you.
Yes, thank you very much, Lama.
I have some Dharma friends in San Francisco, but I have nobody in Sacramento. So just let's keep talking.
Actually, I'm your
you're
new student,
you're my Dana
actually.
G. You're my Dana
Yeah.
G. Yes, I remember you. Okay, sorry. I have see, Lama Losang's been in puja all day. I've been traveling and running around most of today, so I'm a little loose on things. My connections are a little loose this evening. So thanks. Any other questions from the group? I see we have something in chat. Okay, well, let's jump to chat. Hey, by the way, thank you, Yunten. All right, excellent. He's posted the Nundro commentary by Khenpo Rinpoche and the sadhana book. Very good. Then Daniel, in a similar vein to Larson's question, can you tell us about the relationship that Lojong has to Mahamudra? Oh, I was just talking to somebody today I was talking about this exact thing today. I know that Gampopa brought these two lineages together to create the lineage we practice today. But how would you say these practices in particular complement one another? Lama Losang, do you want to start?
No, I think you're right in sync with this question. So
okay, yeah, because this is weird because somebody else asked me this morning. In fact, it was one of my Dharma friends, and I said, well, as it happens, I'm not a scholar. So see, here's the thing. I've been sitting in, Lama Losang can relate. I've been sitting in Dharma lectures for decades, and I picked up one or two things, right? But and I've read some books and I picked up one or two things. But once I started teaching and Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche gave me the books he wanted me to teach from, I began to see the relationship between these two practices. He told me to use Jamgon Control, the great book, The Great Path of Awakening, to teach Lojong. Okay, so he said, teach Lojong out of Great Path of Awakening. And then he said, use the Torch of Certainty, also by Jamgon Control, to teach the Nundro practice itself. And so he said that will be helpful. So here's sort of here's what I learned about it. If you study and try to understand the Lojong practice, you'll see that there are two aspects to it: relative and ultimate. Relative bodhicitta is love and compassion, and we train in it by doing the Tonglen, or sending and receiving meditation practice, in which we breathe out goodness to all sentient beings and breathe in and remove the suffering from beings. In that way, working on our own selfishness, to reduce our selfishness and to increase our compassionate heart. And Rinpoche said, if you do that before, if you do some of that and learn the 7-point mind training really well, then when you get to Nundro, a lot of it will make sense. And he said, you'll be doing the Nundro for the right reason. But as I go back now and look at the teachings that Jamgon Control gives on how to do ultimate bodhicitta meditation in the Great Path of Awakening, it's very much related to the practice of Mahamudra. In fact, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche gave a teaching once called Naturally Liberating Whatever You Meet. And it was a transmission of Nundro, of Mahamudra, given by Khenpo Gongshar in the 1950s. And it begins with an analytical meditation and ends with a resting meditation. And I said to him, I said, well, the instructions that Khenpo Gongshar gives about the analytical meditation, it's a little bit thin. I don't exactly know how he wants us to do it. And he said, no problem. Yeah, he said, the notes are a little thin. His instructions are a little thin. He said, but if you do the analytical meditation in Great Path of Awakening, it's the same. So what this tells us is that the practice of ultimate bodhicitta and the practice of Mahamudra are related. And yes, Gampopa lived at somewhere, let's see, he was around the time of course, he was around the time of Milarepa. Milarepa was, am I going to get this right, 12th century? Anyway, they're very close in time. And the Great Path of Awakening is built on and based on a 12th century text called the 7-point mind training. Jamgon Control wrote the commentary Great Path of Awakening in the 19th century about a 12th century text. And so, yes, Gampopa learned the Kadampa tradition, which included a very strong practice of Lojong. So you're right. Gampopa learned all of that, the relative and ultimate bodhicitta meditations of Great Path, of the 7-point mind training, and he married those, so to speak, with the Mahamudra and yogic traditions that he learned from Milarepa. So you put those together and there is a relationship. Furthermore, later, Khenpo Rinpoche wrote a book or gave a teaching called The Single Sufficient Virtue. And it's a Mahamudra teaching. And it's based on a text by the previous Kala Rinpoche. And in there, he specifically says that Lojong and Mahamudra lead to the same place, which is, interestingly enough, exactly what Lama Losang said earlier this evening. So I think you're on to something there. And so just continue practicing and working on that bodhisattva motivation. And then the rest of it will become more and more obvious over time. So hopefully, Daniel, I hope that's helpful. And yeah, they'll help each other, those two practices.
It's a great answer. Thank you so much, Lama Kathy.
Okay. Lama Losang, anything you'd like to add on that?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
Good job. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Nothing from the Zoom room, nothing from the audio. So let's go back to the chat. Okay. Barbara V. I've dilly-dallied with Vajrayana practice since taking refuge with Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche over 3 decades ago. Due to primarily physical distance, there was not very much follow-up with him. I've been fortunate to have attended teachings with many wonderful beings. However, I have never established a regular daily practice. Not done Nundro. I am now in my mid-70s. I started coming to this class with the hope of maybe starting Nundro, but after hearing last week about what needs to be done before starting Nundro, I feel this is less likely. Do you have any suggestions for what I can do that I could actually do? I'm maybe a little unclear, Barbara V, about what it is that you can't do. I'm a little unclear. Is it because you can't do the reading, or you can't do the Tonglen practice, or what do you think? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Can unmute myself?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
No,
It's more, it's not like there's some kind of external thing that keeps me from doing something. It's that I don't seem to have the sense of devotion or confidence, and so I don't do it. And let alone the dedication and discipline.
Yeah. I could say a couple words, and then we'll see what Lama Losang has to say. I understand what you're saying. You know, the good news is you met Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, and that was inspiring to you, right? It was inspiring.
Yeah, and there was actually something very inspiring to me that happened before I met Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, is that I had been standing in front of a green Tara statue in a museum, and I felt like I was melting, and I just felt this very strong sense of something going on. And then people say, oh, you need to come with us to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche is doing a green Tara empowerment. Wow. And I felt this great sense from him I felt some things that, that should have inspired devotion. And it did at the time, but then it just kind of waned and never really came back.
Devotion for Dharma, devotion for him, devotion
for him and Dharma. Yeah, that I was in the presence of somebody very holy.
Right.
Which I didn't have in subsequent meetings. I don't know.
Right. Oh, because you met him more.
I met him, yeah, a few times when I would come back to New York, and I never had anything like, oh, this is what you should do, kind of a thing, or even just all the things that you say about, oh yeah, and he told me this, and that, and it's like, usually it was like a lot of silence, and then, well, just do something, kind of a thing. So just get started on a regular.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, okay. It felt like maybe he didn't have a commitment to you specifically.
I guess you could say, yeah, I guess that's what you could say.
Well, I think that there's a lot of different ways to practice, but
which is not to say it's not my responsibility. I mean, I'm not to put it on.
No, yeah. I hear that. Well, yeah, because there are two different sentient beings in any relationship, right? Any two-person relationship, there's both sides of it. Here's what my take is. My take is that we all get inspired. And Khenpo Rinpoche said one time, he said, you have a flash of devotion, or a flash some people get like what he flash devotion and then flash renunciation. Some people want to become monks and nuns instantly upon meeting a monk or nun, and he called that flash renunciation. The same thing happens when we meet a teacher. He said sometimes there's a flash devotion and then it fades, and then you think there's something either wrong with you or them or the practice. Really, it's just because it was a flash. And that now it's up to us to make the relationship. Because it's not always going to be, it's kind of like meeting a new friend. When you meet a new friend, you get all excited about it, and then the new friend becomes an old friend, and maybe the spark is gone, and you think, oh, well, maybe I don't want to be this person's friend anymore. Maybe they don't want to be my friend anymore. You know, we start to tell ourselves stories about the relationship rather than just talking to the friend. So maybe it's your Buddha nature talking to you, saying, "Okay, Barbara, let's go. Rinpoche really was a special person, and Tara is a special being, and you have a great connection. You still have it. It's in there." So, you know, so it's like, let's find ways to reawaken that, you know, and maybe it's not going to be Nundro. You're right. As we get older, thinking of doing all kinds of prostrations and things like that might seem a little strange. In fact, one of my friends, my Dharma friends, went to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche and said, look, she said, because of my knees and my back and everything else, there's no way I can do prostrations. And he said, well, do you like mantra? And she's like, yeah, I like Chenrezig mantra. And he said, well, then Chenrezig is your guru. Chenrezig is your yidam. Chenrezig is your protector. Do that practice. And so she took it on as her daily practice, and she's still doing it today, like years later. And that's how she relates to her sacred self. So maybe for you, it's Tara, who knows? Right? So I don't know if that's helpful.
It is helpful. Thank you. It's still, yeah.
There's a lot of stories, aren't there, in our life and in our mind?
And in generating the dedication and the moving away from, I don't know whether it's laziness or lack of structure or.
Well, some people are just spontaneous. I don't, you know, I'm going to ask Lama Losang to weigh in here in a minute, because I think like we don't have to think of it as a dedication, drudgery, duty. We can just wake up in the morning. You know what Lama Karma said? Lama Karma Drodol, Khenpo Rinpoche's nephew, when he was teaching in Columbus, he said, practice doesn't have to be complicated. He said, you wake up in the morning, he said, and what I and many other Tibetan people say the minute we wake up is, wow, I'm not dead. And he said, then after that, you feel this gratitude. And he said that gratitude moves you to be compassionate to yourself and to be compassionate to others. So I think it doesn't need to be complicated.
That's it, is that Vajrayana practice seems to be very complicated. It's like before you even get around, which is what I liked in the beginning, but now it's like before I would even get around to sitting and doing any kind of shamatha meditation, there are all these things I have to do beforehand.
I know.
It's like
well, let's make it simple then. Let's talk about making things simple. Let's do that sometime, okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, I don't mean to take up everybody else's
that's
time.
Quite all right. Yeah, Lama Losang, do you have some things to add?
Well, there are two faults in practicing the Dharma. The first is not starting, and the second is not finishing. So there we are. Barbara, you know, and I mentioned the four thoughts, and it's just these are foundation practices, and we have to generate the intention, you know, to practice. And the four thoughts that turn the mind is that they serve as powerful reminders, helping you to shift your attention from ordinary concerns to deeper spiritual priorities. So did you hear my presentation on the four thoughts that turn the mind?
Other than today?
Yeah,
what you said today.
A couple of weeks ago that I did it.
No, unfortunately I couldn't do that one. So, but I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I am aware of them. It's kind of when I would sit down to do a formal practice for myself, I would bring them up. I mean,
That is the thing to do. So that is the sitting. So it begins with, well, just to reiterate it again, this precious human life. You're older.
Right.
I'm older, and we are coming to the end. It's good when we can wake up and say, I'm alive. That's a good start. That's a good day to begin. So this precious human birth, this contemplation that you can do on the precious human birth, remembering, the rarity of this situation. And there's lots of things that we can say about that makes it rare. When we look at the 6 realms of existence and we look at what the Buddha taught about it, we have certain opportunities now and to motivate us and to further it encourages purpose. The reflection helps you prioritize meaningful activities, making it easier to choose spiritual practice over our distractions and our predispositions towards watching television or engaging in something that's not really going to help us when we're about ready to take our last breath, and which is the second of the 4 thoughts, impermanence, and we don't know the time of our death. So awareness of life, please, this is this understanding encourage us to live more mindfully and appreciating each moment. So it also inspires an urgency in our practice and recognizing that time is limited and motivates us to practice. It doesn't have to be Nundro. As I say, this is a foundation practice in the 7 points of mind training as well, the Lojong practice. So that is an equally good, you don't have to do prostrations. There, as we mentioned before, there are many different ways. The Buddha taught 84,000 different ways to appeal to all the different mindsets. So if it doesn't naturally attract you, you're probably not going to do it. So if you already said that, you look at that, you've been doing it, you're familiar with it. So again, precious human birth, contemplate that until you feel it in your bones. Impermanence and death, it motivates us. And karma and cause and effect, those things we do, this contemplation guides our ethical choices, how we spend our time, reflecting on karma, reminds you that the actions have consequences, and encouraging kindness and honesty and responsibility. And it promotes a mindfulness. This thought helps you pause and consider the impact of your words and deeds throughout the day. And then, of course, the defects of samsara, the 4th of the 4 thoughts. And this contemplation, by seeing unsatisfactory nature of worldly pursuits, you become less attached to the fleeting pleasures and more interested in lasting happiness. We all want to be happy. We don't want to suffer, but we're not good at the choices that we make. And maybe there is laziness because you haven't got a good reason. We have to have a reason why we do something. So it strengthens our motivation, and the contemplation fuels your determination to seek liberation and to generally, do it for the benefit of all beings. So we practice. And so doing shamatha or tranquility meditation to engage in the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. And whatever you're attracted to, as I say, the Buddha taught so many different ways. And some of those are going to be more attractive to you than others. Trust your judgment, trust your attraction, trust your intuition. But fault number 1, not beginning. Fault number 2, not finishing. So just keep that in your mind stream and do continue with the rest of the practice and go back and listen to the Lojong teachings as well. There's lots of good advice and lots of practice techniques and ways that you can engage in your Dharma practice. So I encourage you, Barbara, not to give up and not to label yourself lazy. We just have to engage. And once we have our motivation, and those 4 thoughts are those things that contribute to our motivation to engage in practice. So I wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you all too all of you for doing this.
Oh, yeah.
For
Right.
offering these classes.
Barbara, I just posted the link to Lama Losang's teaching on the four thoughts in YouTube, and it's in the chat.
Thank you.
And if you contact me by email, I'll send you some notes from Lama Karma about everyday practice for people who are busy.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Yes.
All right. Take good care. All right. I see we have David. You're quite patient. There you go. Let's see if he's on.
It's unusual for me to be patient. I don't have a question. I am certain that I'm grateful to Barbara for what she said about her difficulty practicing and practicing daily. She put that into words very, very well. And that has been my problem as well. So I really appreciate her saying that. And also I appreciate the Lamas talking. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, David. No, I appreciate that. I think that's true. Somebody said to me once, I feel funny asking questions. And I said, well, usually when you ask a question, there's at least one and maybe more people in the audience with exactly the same question. So I always think that questions are good because they help us to open up a line of understanding, right? Understanding ourselves, understanding, other people and finding what's useful for us. So appreciate you for sharing that. All right. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. There's another, do we have two Barbara V's? We have a Barbara Van and a Barbara Vickers. Yeah, we have two Barbara V's tonight. Okay. Okay. Chris.
I just wanted to say one of the wonderful things about coming to KTD is that it's like boot camp for Dharma practice. And that's where I really got the spirit of it. It's like, okay, we're going to do 3 hours in the morning. We're going to do 3 hours in the afternoon. Then we're going to do some more practice tonight. And then I was like, hey, I got to get with this group. And this is so great. And when you're there, it's like, I can do anything. And then when you get home, it's kind of like, oh my God, I got to go back to KTD.
Oh.
Well, we hope you do.
Yeah, I have my heart in the place, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate how everyone really is a practice. If we die tomorrow, it's going to really matter if we practice today. And I absolutely love how hardcore you guys are. You Lamas are incredible, and just being around Kempo Kartar, you think I just want to practice. Just as smiling at you or touching your head or anything is just like a blessing. So I really feel like his presence is so strong with all the Lamas and with the place. And we're really blessed to have the seat of His Holiness, the Karmapa, as like a pure land for us. So this is the most special opportunity to do the Nundro. I've been working on it since 2003. And so it's a big thing. And it's it's not the goal. It's not the end. It's the process. And we're all here to support each other. It's a beautiful thing. And sometimes you do prostrations, you get super angry. What's going on? Why is this all coming up? And sometimes you do mandala sets. You're like, I feel so happy. I feel so great. So it's a big roller coaster ride, but that is the practice. It's not oh, this is what comes before. This is the practice. This is the essence of the whole thing. And it's a very beautiful thing. And so the Guru Yoga especially is incredibly profound because it's just the heart of the Karmapa's blessing and lineage is all in that in a very concise form. And I asked my best friend as a tulku, I said, what do I do with all this visualization? He's like, focus on the middle.
Focus on the middle.
On the Guru. I was like, Okay.
Yep. Works for me.
And I can't visualize any of this, the whole thing or anything. I
Either.
just,
I was bad at that.
but I believe in our teachers and their blessings. So thank you for continuing this like perfect lineage and bringing it to life. It's impossible to find, and we have it. And I love this the saying of, oh, the fault is not practicing and not finishing. So I absolutely love it. So thank you for your presence and inspiring me over a bunch of years, so many years. And I'm trying to become a therapist to help other people. And I'm going to New York to train so I can do something to help people. So now's the time to share it and help.
Thank you. Thank you
So
so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Kempo Karthar Rinpoche addressed that question once, what do you do when you get home? And he says, well, he says it's inspiration, just to refresh it when you can and try to always remember you have Buddha nature, beneath all of the things we tell ourselves, we have Buddha nature. There's nobody who can take it away from us. And the experience that the previous questioner spoke about being in the presence of a statue and having this unique experience, it's because there's a resonance between the awakened objects that we see in front of us, whether it's a teacher or a statue, and there's a resonance with what's going on inside of us, what we already possess, our Buddha nature. I use the example of a tuning fork. If you've got, this is like music and science all together. If you have two tuning forks that have the same note, supposedly, according to physics, you're supposed to strike one and you don't even have to touch the other one. It begins to vibrate. And so that's kind of what I feel happens to us when we're in the presence of beautiful art, like the statuary and so forth. It touches a part of us that is ancient and immediate and spiritual. And it causes that to vibrate and to tell us, oh, there's something about this I need to know. And even if we only get as far as to hear a name like Tara or Chenrezig or Buddha, and that's all we hear. And then we just say, well, that's great. I have a friend who lives in the Midwest, in the Southwest. And he's got a lot going on in his life. And he can't do a regular practice like folks like to try to do. But he loves the Buddha. He just said, no, I just always pray to the Blessed One, is what he says. And that makes me really happy, he said. So that's his connection. So it's pretty darn cool, actually.
It's called resonance.
Yeah.
Vibration. We talk about contact highs. You get Barbara was saying, just looking at Rinpoche or being close to her, you start vibrating just like those tuning forks. So we begin to vibrate at that level, and it does raise our consciousness. That we're all generating a certain vibration, and we want to raise that vibration and start just like those tuning forks, begin to increase that resonance to a higher frequency.
All right. That's lovely. Let's see. Emails have been requested. Lama Losang, can you share your email? I'm gonna share mine.
Yeah, well, it's just lamalosang@gmail.
Okay. Mine's more complicated, so I'll type it in. KTC. Okay. I think I spelled that right. Okay. Okay. I need new glasses, and so my bifocals aren't quite working. Oh, look at us. You guys have been amazing. Look at how well you've done. You've given us lots of interesting stuff to talk about. We only have 10 minutes to go. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to discuss, whether it's this or something additional? Like Lama Losang says, we're here. All right. Okay, we'll say going once. Going twice. Oh, yes, Dana. Hey, yes.
Hey, I just have a question about, is there a book on like a biography of the Karmapa? Because I know he arrived in Dharamsala sort of surprised by Dalai Lama was surprised and yeah,
Yeah.
he escaped and all that. And I just kind of want to get to know him better.
Yeah. There's a book called Music in the Sky
Mhm.
that was written by Michelle Martin. Lama
Okay.
Losang, do you have other Michelle's a scholar and a translator who traveled to Asia extensively and met the Karmapa and wrote stories, the story of his life based on her interviews and some of the written records.
But particularly about his escape from Tibet. Yeah.
Hmm?
Okay, thank you.
The link will be in the chat momentarily.
Okay, great.
Wow, you're quick.
Oh, I tell you, Yunten, he's right on it, man.
Yeah.
No, he's got connections.
There it is.
Excellent. Music in the Sky, yeah.
And putting in a plug for that, it's also got wonderful pictures as well as just the story.
Yes.
You see the 7-year-old Karmapa and so on, his family, the tent he was found in, and so on. It's a wonderful book.
He is now 40, so there's some things to fill in along the way. But, yeah.
Yeah, the book's not all that new. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was written in 2003, so a little bit's happened since then.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Oh, we've got two more. Let's see. Oh, I like it. Daniel says Yunten is the host with the most. That's right. You betcha. As we say in the Midwest. Okay, let's see. Eric is asking, what is the connection between Nundro and other practices such as Che? You want to take a swing at that, Lama Losang?
Well, they're very different. That is for sure. The Chu practice requires Nundro, actually.
That's right.
So there are preliminary practices to the Chu practice. So it is called, boy, my
Oh, yeah, yeah.
a little
The
fried.
offering of the body. The offering of the body. You want me to pick it up?
Yeah, it's not the word I was thinking, but yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, the Tibetan tradition is just full of practices. And I think it's because the Tibetans were so hungry for Dharma that they sent people to India to go get it. And that the kings invited Indian pundits and scholars to come to Tibet and wonder workers such as Guru Rinpoche and so forth to come to Tibet. And so the Nundro practice that we are talking about during these classes is related to something called Mahamudra. And the Mahamudra lineage practices started in India with the great Tibetan saint Tilopa, who upon his awakening had a vision of the Buddha Shakyamuni in the form of Buddha Vajradhara, who gave him concise pith instructions on how to meditate on the nature of mind. And then Tilopa gave those whispered teachings, those oral teachings, to his disciple Naropa, who then gave them to his disciple, the Tibetan Marpa, and he gave it to Milarepa, and Milarepa gave it to Gampopa, and Gampopa to the first Karmapa, and then the lineage of Karmapas has carried it ever since. And the Nundro that we're talking about in this series of classes is the preliminary to doing those practices of how to meditate on the nature of mind. That's really that. But there are other ways to meditate on the nature of mind. including mantra practices. And mantra practice involves visualization, in which we visualize ourselves as a Buddha or Bodhisattva and meditate on the qualities of that Buddha or Bodhisattva, visualize ourselves as being made of light and so forth. And all of this, according to the teachings, breaks our fixation on our body, speech, and mind as being solid, real, permanent, and unchanging. And so that's so the fact that it uses that Nundro uses practices of visualization and mantra and repetitions, there's some similarity there. But where they're heading is they're all heading toward meditating on mind's nature. Che is another type of practice. It comes through a lineage that goes back to Prajnaparamita, called the mother of all Buddhas. Prajnaparamita is actually, I'll never forget this one book I read, that the chapter was titled "The Book That Became a Woman," or was it "The Woman That Became a Book"? Anyway, the idea is that Prajnaparamita means perfection of wisdom. The Buddha taught extensively about the nature of mind and reality in his Prajnaparamita Sutras. And the greatest of these was the Heart Sutra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, and so on. And Che is based on that. And the Che practice is I guess you could call it a form of generosity in which you imagine freely giving away your body to whoever might want it. And I think this is a little bit of a difficult practice to explain, but we can maybe ask some of our Tibetan Dharma friends to help us with this. But my understanding of it is that it helps to break fixation by approaching that which is scary or fearsome. So that practice does allow us to meditate on the nature of mind also, but in a completely different way. And I think what Lama Losang said earlier about people having different predispositions and so forth, that's why there are 84,000 types of Dharma. Some people may hear about a practice and want to immediately do it, but our teachers have told us, start with loving kindness, start with some meditation, start with loving kindness, and then work your way into other practices that help you find the nature of mind. So I don't know, did that give a good start to you, Lama Losang? Do you have?
Yeah, oh, yes, that is very good. So, Che is a very distinctive Tibetan Buddhist practice whose core aim is to cut through, our ego clinging and our self-cherishing, and ultimately enabling realization of emptiness, as you said, and deepening compassion and loving kindness. So this practice was greatly systematized by the female yogini Magic Lobdran. She's renowned for its powerful blending of meditation and visualization and chanting and ritual music. You've seen with the chudram and the bone kangling and a variety of things that are used in that practice. It's like a horn, but chud means to cut, and specifically cutting through our attachment and our attachment to self and our fears and illusory separation between self and other. So it is a very powerful practice, and it's considered an advanced method, to overcome our internal obstacles, our anger, our jealousy, our fear, and transforming even challenging circumstances into the path of awakening. So it is again, it's not for the faint of heart. It is the visualizations can be intense, and the understanding that all phenomena, lack any inherent existence. So don't take yourself too seriously. In fact, you cut out your guts to give it to those who might want guts. So it is, the more you learn about it, you understand emptiness. And that is the point, really, and to cultivate compassion. So practitioners typically perform in places associated with fear, such as graveyards, and to confront and harness the energy of fear directly. It's, yeah, we can say a lot about it, but I'll stop there.
Understood. Well, hopefully this is helpful to you. Let's see, the person who asked the question, that was a minute ago. So thanks for that. Let's see. Okay. Oh, wow. We're now at the bottom of the hour. So let's take a quick look at what's in chat.
There are 2 questions been added.
Okay. Do we know anything at this point about Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's possible reincarnation? Did he leave any details? I don't know about that right now. I don't know that there's anything. I wish Lama Karma was on here and we could ask him, because he would probably be more closer to the situation. Have you heard anything, Lama Losang?
I have not, waiting for Karmapa to recognize him.
I know the Karmapa does have to identify. That's his one of his roles. So, but you know what we can do, even if it's something we don't know much about, we can still pray to him now, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche now. I asked a great Lama, what should I do if Khenpo Rinpoche passes away? He said, look, he's always been there to care for you and inspire you. What do you think is going to change in the future when he passes? He's still going to be there for you, which really that touched me. Think about that. Let's see, another question from Tom. Hey, Tom. Let's see. Just wanted to talk about the times we lose focus. Do you mean in a session of meditation, Tom?
I'll put myself on. Yeah, like in meditation, because maybe it's just me. It seems like my mind wanders sometimes, and you go down that rabbit hole, and then you forget, what was I thinking of now? Or just simple, that no logical answer to it, and then just, what was I thinking of?
Yeah. Yeah, when you lose focus, you know what Rinpoche told me, there's no tip, there's no trick. He said, just come back. Because when you lose focus, it means that you're just you've lost the thread of it, because of the practice of what practice you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You lose focus on it. And Rinpoche said, look, if you're tired, maybe you need a nap, if you're falling asleep, then maybe you need to get more sleep at night, he said. But if not, do that. But then he said, if you're feeling sleepy or a little bit out of focus, he said, you can straighten your posture. You can straighten your posture, and you can, he said, if you're wearing like a sweater, he said you can take your sweater off or open a window or run a fan to give yourself a little extra air. And then he said one time he said 2 other things. This is when we were in three retreat. He said, you can always slap a little water in your face. He said, if none of that works, he said, think about death. Just like, Rinpoche, come on. But what he was meaning is this impermanence. But if it's really just a momentary loss of focus, if you can bring it back, that's really the work. You've done the work by bringing your focus back. There's like almost nothing more that needs done except to just return and to replace your attention. You remember that 9 stages of shamatha diagram with the elephant and stuff? The first one is the first of the 9 stages is called placement. You place your attention. The second one is a little more placement, meaning a placement for a little longer, a few more seconds. And then the third one is called returning or continuous placement, which is what happens when you wander and then you bring it back. So it's a given that we're going to lose focus.
I remember Rinpoche told us once, when you feel a little tired, if you lift your head up a little, because when your eyes are focused down like that, it tends to make us a little drowsy at times. Where it's below level like this. Do you remember the cubit in front of you like that? The little focus thing?
And then he said and the other thing he said, I think this is in Dharma paths, is that you cast your eyes upward and that you imagine a shaft of light going up into the sky. He says you imagine your breath coming out and going up into that, and then it comes back to you as light and it illuminates your body with light. He said, but only do it for as long as you need to dispel the lack of focus. So you can try those things too.
Yeah, even like you mentioned when doing Tong Len, it's much more efficient to make it shorter.
Yeah.
Because like then you lose focus too after a bit. So keep it short like that. You said earlier, you mentioned it before.
Yeah. And in fact, in one of Kemper Biche's Mahamudra texts, he says, don't force too much. Don't force yourself to do too much. He said, the ninth Karmapa said, leave your meditation on good terms. Lama Losang.
Okay.
Oh, oh my gosh, it's 36 minutes
Oops.
past here. We probably should.
Yes, I think that's
Thank
fine.
you.
We probably should close. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we'll stop for tonight.
But that's what shamatha is for, is to tame the mind. And so you're bringing it back to your focus of awareness. Usually we use the breath. So as soon as, as you say, you go down the rabbit hole. But it's the sooner, that's what we're contemplating. That's what we're working on, is to disengage from that thought pattern and bring it back to the focus of our attention. That is shamatha. So practice your shamatha, until you can stabilize the mind and make it workable. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you, Lama. Well, my goodness, you guys have been great. Wow. There's a lot of wisdom in the room. There's a lot of compassion and devotion in the room. So thank you for being here for this. And Yunten, thank you for being our host this evening.
And thank you, Lama.
Yeah, we dedicate this merit to all sentient beings and make the aspiration that all beings are free from suffering and become Buddhas. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next week, because I think next week we'll be talking about the Vajrasattva practice, if I remember correctly.
Very good. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Be safe out there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.